Guys, so another interview here. What are your names, sir?
John.
John?
Yeah.
And Ricardo. So guys, who are you voting for in 2016?
Trump. No, not Trump. I can't vote at the moment. Actually, I'm undocumented. So.
Okay, so that's actually an interesting side to this this story.
Right.
So
I came just because I wanted to speak to people and see what's going on and understand the reasons why people are supporting Donald Trump, because I think that he's incredibly hateful. His policies are not policies that can actually go through Congress, and a lot of his policies honestly are unconstitutional. So I would just...
All right, which ones? I'm just curious. I don't mean to cut you off.
The whole deporting 12 million people is going to be against the human rights that basically the Constitution gives everyone, not just people in the United States, but the United States also has deals with the UN that would prevent them from doing such things. And
from Cuba.
So on that level, I don't understand how it is that people can support a man. Like, even if you do support deporting people like me, I'm a college student and I don't take anything from the government. Actually, I paid for school all on my own.
Okay.
I got zero money from the government.
That's respectable.
And but even if you were wanting to deport 12 million people, the fact is that that's definitely not going to happen. It's not feasible.
I would agree. That's not feasible.
But what it is, it's very hateful when you are standing there and you're saying that Mexicans and Latin Americans. I was born in Colombia. I consider myself American, but I was born in Colombia. When you say things like that, we're rapists and we're criminals. I'm watching this as I'm trying to pass a test so that I can get my economics degree out in Stony Brook.
I know. So here's how I would respond to that. All right, I don't know if you heard me, but I'm actually Puerto Rican and Honduran. So my father was an illegal immigrant here for years before Reagan actually passed, amnesty. And even though I would not technically be here, I actually wouldn't support that decision. And the reason why is because I think that any nation should have a strong national defense. And part of it is actually, controlling the borders. So I don't think this has anything to do with hate. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I mean, the whole Mexican crossing the border thing being all rapists. And when I first heard that, I was actually kind of pissed off myself because I was like, okay, well, I'm suddenly a rapist twice. I'm a man and I'm Mexican, right, in his mind. But when I actually watched the clip in context, and I started thinking about it, when you go to the border, who are the coyotes?
I'm gonna make you great again.
The coyotes.
Who are the coyotes?
Yeah.
Well, a bunch of criminals, yes.
Right, and they're Mexican.
Not
all of them. A lot of them are Colombian. Yeah, they're all cartel, basically. They're all cartel connected.
Right.
And 80% of the women that come over the border are raped.
Where do you get the stat from?
That was actually a stat online. I got to look it up for you.
Yeah.
I'll cite it for you after this.
I would be very interested because a lot of the crime, there is high crime in the border, but it's not because there are undocumented people crossing over. It's because we have a drug problem in this country that needs to be dealt with. Of course, this is not about the drug problem. This is about people like my mother who have been in this country for almost 25 years, who have been putting 4 kids through school, has been raising kids, and has been paying taxes, actually, believe it or not, because there's something that the conservatives keep pushing through, that undocumented people don't pay taxes. Yes, we do. We pay taxes. If you know how... There's a whole system behind being undocumented and how you are able to work without a social security number. There's a whole system to it that if you understood, you would understand that every week when an undocumented immigrant gets paid their check, they get taken on taxes off their check, taxes that are not actually given back to them because most of them are very afraid or do not know how to do their taxes. So the government takes a lot more than they should, and you can look this up. Facts. Undocumented people contribute billions of dollars to this country every single year, right? But you wouldn't know that if you spoke to Donald Trump or you spoke to the people managing his campaign, because again, it doesn't. Yeah, I thought I was like, no.
I was like, oh well, that's what I was waiting for.
But you don't hear that because it goes against the narrative that people like me are rapists, that people like me are criminals, that people like me have no good intentions in this country. I've tried to join the military several times. I haven't been able to because I'm on.
Well, thank you for trying.
But it just there's no narrative. The narrative that he pushes does not include people like me, and does not include the overwhelming majority of undocumented immigrants in this country. So it's just very frustrating. But I mean, I will sit here and I'll talk to Donald Trump supporters because this is America and you get to say what you want and you get to support the candidate you want. I'm just very saddened that people would actually support someone like him.
Yeah, like I said, I'm Latino myself, and I don't find it offensive or racist. I do think it's really clunky and thick-headed. I don't think he thought it through at all, and I don't think he worded it the way he really should have.
Yeah.
Because I think really the people we're talking about the cartels, all right?
Yeah.
Essentially, and they control a huge part of that region. But that's the scary part about it. If you're talking about that particular area, yeah, I would agree. I would say if you come up to Connecticut, no, not all Mexicans are rapists. But if you go to certain areas down there, like cartel villages where they hang out and they hide out and they do their operations, I would say that he was accurate. I would say a large majority of those guys, by nature, are criminals, and it's not a huge leap for them to do something else.
Right, but how many? That's one issue, though. That is one issue. You said that you're from El Salvador?
Puerto Rico and Honduras.
Puerto Rico and Honduras. Honduras is still a very dangerous country.
It's one of the deadliest, yeah.
Right. It's to say what Donald Trump has said about people like me. Is to point you out and singling you out for being Honduran and saying, well, you're from a very dangerous place in the not in the United States, in the world, and say, you know what, I don't want a Honduran or Puerto Rican to come here. Or you can look at the huge debt that Puerto Rico is in right now and the economic just absolute economic crisis that they're in right now. You're a Honduran.
Trump, make America great again, baby!
You're a Honduran coming from one of the most dangerous places in the world, and not only are you a Honduran, but you also have ancestors that come from an island that is in complete economic disaster because of their poor economic choices and whatnot. So,
that and slavery.
To say that I'm going to judge you based on what's happening down there, or based on some Puerto Ricans, or some Hondurans, is absolutely ludicrous. But you know what? I'm taking up the floor. I will let my brother.
All right, buddy.
Your brother? I think to talk about the whole violent crimes that are going on in the border between South America and Mexico. I feel like the main issue is that
I agree.
we have such a drug culture in this country that kind of enablizes the criminals to do what they can do in this country. Hey. I feel like the best way to address this issue is to really deal with the drug policies that we have in this country that will ultimately affect what's going on in the country south of us and what's really fostering the criminal activity that's going on here. Because to be honest, I feel like the drug policies in this country are really a joke, and what's really driving the economy in the south and all these drug policies, all these drug things that are going on, is basically due to us allowing it. And that's one of the main reasons why we have all this criminal activity, which is only one portion of the migrants that are coming here. It's really such a small minority that's really affecting it. And I believe that the vast majority of people that are coming to this country is really those who mean well for themselves and are seeking for a better opportunity.
Right. I would agree. But I would also say that the drug problem is also a national security issue, and it's also a border problem. Because the way most of these drugs come up here is produced in, I guess my country is down in south, and then they put them on mules and get them up here. And the same guys who are doing the coyote work are the same guys who are doing this other kinds of smuggling, like human trafficking and, getting people in illegally. So really, I mean, shutting down the border would definitely help in at least slowing down some of it. The wall isn't going to work. I agree with you on that. The cartel already has lifts that go over it. But
the funny thing, I watched the documentary, so you should really check it out. That the major port of entry of drugs into the country is not necessarily even driving through the border. A lot of these drug cartel companies have gotten to the point where they could make submarines.
Yeah.
and make remote control like flying facilities,
Drones and
drones and stuff, and getting it over to the United States that way. So the idea that you're gonna close the border and build a huge wall,
right.
which
The wall isn't going to work. Yeah.
the wall is not gonna work. Not only that, building a wall is not even physically possible in terms of the way geographically it's not possible.
Right.
So-
It's. I would agree with you that the wall is like kind of a failed rhetoric kind of thing, but to back down from it would make him lose face. So I can't blame him for that. What I can say is that national security and borders also include oceans. So we really should be talking about this too, but people are so fixated on the wall because it's such a crazy idea that we're really losing half the conversation. But I think he's at least willing to start talking about it.
I agree with you there, but we also got to look at the issues that why did we get into this situation where Donald Trump has to use such rhetoric, which is really throwing everything off. And that's one of the big issues that I have with Donald Trump is that he uses all this rhetoric that has no basis and is not feasible for most of the time. That we kind of lose sight of the real issues, and now we have an issue of social issues and big issues that's going on.
Okay. So would you say Donald Trump is a racist?
I would say Donald Trump is racist.
Okay. So as a black man, you think he's racist?
I really believe it.
Okay. Is it because of the same things that he said about the border, or are there particular things to the black community that you feel grieved by?
Necessarily, yes. I think same things he talked about the border, of course. I'm not going to call him racist just because he hasn't said anything specifically about the African American race. But there's also been issues with African Americans at his rallies that have been attacked for simply standing there and not protesting. So yes, he does inspire hate across all ethnic backgrounds. It's not only Latin Americans, but there's been moments where he's thrown out microaggressions against, let's for example, Arabs, for example, in his speeches, where he would say, "Oh, I've had issues with all these people that were wearing turbans." He said things like that, and so that just shows a sense of bigotry coming from him, even though he's not explicitly saying it. But you can see the microaggressions coming out every time he speaks, where it proves that it shows there's evidence that he may.
Is it possible that it might be confirmation bias, though? Is it possible that you already have an idea that he might be racist and
due to confirmation
yeah.
bias?
Is it possible that you're seeing more because of it, or is it you really feel legitimately?
I really feel I doubt
okay.
that there's a confirmation bias on my part.
Okay. No, I'm not denying your veracity about it. I'm just asking it whether or not you think that it might play a part of it.
I
Okay, that's okay. So I guess I would say like I don't. What exactly is a microaggression?
Okay, microaggression is when you say something that is subconsciously offensive, but you may or may not be aware of it. So let's say I'm having a conversation with somebody who's Latin American, right?
Right.
And then I say, "Hey, how'd you get over here? Did you like hop over the border?" Even though I'm saying it in a jokingly manner,
Right.
or if I don't say
you
it,
might find it offensive.
yeah, the person who's receiving it might find it offensive. So that's the definition of what a microaggression.
Trump forever!
So it's pretty much where it usually comes from a source of ignorance, where you offend somebody without noticing it.
Okay.
So that's what I mean by microaggression.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to say, sir?
No, that would be it.
All right. Thank
Because
you.
I think my